People try to predict the future, but instead of predicting the future, why don't we just use quips to do it? In other words, we're not really predicting the future, but we sort of are predicting the future. So there are two quips that I think could serve that function. One is from George Carlin, which goes, if you think there's a solution, you're part of the problem. And the other is from Margaret Thatcher, who said, there's no society, only individuals. And I think those two quips could do a pretty good job of defining the future for us. Because in the future, there's probably not going to be such a thing as a solution. I think even now there is no such thing as a solution. And we're living in times when everybody feels alone, atomized. And so those quips really do a good job of painting the future. Even without predicting the future, without speculating about the specifics of the future, who will do what, they still do a good job on a fundamental level of predicting it. And I think there's some other concepts we could use, such as religion or utilitarianism or stoicism. And these also tell us what kind of world we're living in, right? Today we're living in utilitarian times, for example, when everything is use value. People are not really looked at, they're not really seen as individuals of their own accord. What they're really seen as are things to be ground up, like beef. And the world is also very stoic in the sense that we are told to just suck it up. We have political pundits, figures, usually of the right-wing orientation, who will tell us, just shut the fuck up and do your job. There's no point in naming names, I think, but certain people whose names might rhyme with Bieberson, exemplify that. You could say 80% of their fame has come from just telling you to shut the fuck up and go back to work. And if you don't want to go back to work, then you're a sorry excuse of a man and you're a pussy. Same thing if you don't want to have kids. You don't want to have kids, then you're just a confused idiot, because all your ancestors did it. Your ancestors also kept slaves, and they liked to rape and pillage, but I guess they were wrong then, but they were right about procreation. Actually, the likelihood is the opposite. They were probably wrong. We have become more intelligent, so we can realize that having kids is probably not such a good idea. For one reason, because of the state of the world, which is more and more degenerated, idiotic, stupid, pointless, painful. And just for a more general reason, which is that life sucks. Life is pointless. Those utopian ideals that we still harbor should have died a long time ago. They should have died with Darwin. They should have died with science, physics, philosophy, Nietzsche, have all told us, yeah, there is no God, God is dead. And we're just little creatures. And there is no soteriology. There's no theory of salvation. There is no second coming. There is no heaven. There's no purpose, no point. It's just nature in tooth and claw, short, nasty, and brutish. Only now it's long, nasty, and brutish. So certain philosophers and scientists and people like that have come about, and they've told us the truth, but we don't listen. We never listen. We take those same myths and we reconceptualize them into something else. That's where religion comes in. People say we're no longer religious, but they do believe in the singularity. For example, some of them do. They do believe that there will be some utopia. That some AI God will save us all. And then there's also Bitcoin, for example, and crypto in general. That's also a religious phenomenon. The God is Satoshi Nakamoto. Satoshi Nakamoto. Probably butchering that for some reason. There are graven images in my country, in the capital, Budapest. There is actually a bust. It's not a bust, it's a whole sculpture, an actual sculpture of him. So that's graven images. There is a liturgical calendar, which is to say, like Christmas, that sort of thing, Lent. That would be every 4 years. There's something called the halving, when the rate of minted bitcoins is cut in half. So that's a religious kind of event. And the soteriology, the kind of the salvational element of it, is the story of Calvinist predestination. There's only a selected few people, right? That's Calvinism. There's a selected few people who have been chosen by God to be saved. And those are the people, the select few who have invested in Bitcoin and crypto. And all the others are left to die in the hands of the legacy system, right? So it's the, it's the flood, God has abandoned us. But the good ones, they will be sucked up to heaven at the second coming, the rapture. So that's just one example of really religiosity. I suppose I gave two. I don't remember what the hell I said. But Bitcoin, this phenomenon of Bitcoin is one. We have more. Yeah, I guess I just made the general point that we turn everything into a kind of religion. And I have also said how Stoicism is back in the main, right? So, and utilitarianism is taken to its extreme. And then also everything is very scientific, right? So everything is very scientific. And that's one thing. And so we divest our hope into science, as if we haven't learned our lesson. We haven't learned that science will only make things worse in the long run. 5,000 years ago, there was not so much science and there was not so much genocide. It was the last century which was the worst century in human history, not the first or the second or the fifth. So those who believe in this kind of scientific progress, those who are positivists, rationalists, how do they explain this fact that as science progresses, the genocides seem to increase in number. The torture, the terrible things that we impose on each other seems to increase in number. Without science, this would not be possible. Without science, you could say extended lifetimes could also not be possible. But is that really would be a bad thing? Can we really say that we're living in these times? The Japanese novelist, great Japanese novelist Mishima, Yukio Mishima, lamented many decades ago that men no longer die for something, right? They just sort of wither away. Would it not be better for us if we could die for a cause? Is it really true that our modern lives are better than our previous, than the lives of our ancestors? Just think about it. It's no longer nasty, short, and brutish. It's nasty, long, and brutish. And sure, in some sense, it's a lot better. It's a lot more convenient. But even now, my back aches because I have been molested by society. I have been turned into Play-Doh. I have been messed with. Ever since I was little, they shoved me into a desk and told me to shut my mouth and behave. And I got depressed, and I started eating. And look at me now. If I had been born into a different era, a more physical era, where they don't just shove you into a desk and tell you to shut up and make you feel terrified and guilty if you don't, perhaps I would be a healthy young man, not what I've become. Perhaps if I had been given the chance to be self-reliant, I wouldn't have become reliant the way I have become reliant. I could have cut my own firewood, built my own house, planted my own vegetables, and hunted my own game. Which is not nice, but it's something, you know. Let me pause for a second. Recently I saw a video in which the Christian apologist William Lane Craig, if I remember correctly, defended the Canaanite genocide, or it was some kind of, maybe it wasn't called genocide, but it was some kind of mass murder of a people at the behest of God. So God had commanded it. And I might be getting the details wrong, but the point is, this guy was basically defending it on what's called divine command theory, which basically says whatever God says is okay. Right? So it's the logic of God says so. And, he was trying to justify it. Okay, these were degenerate people. And then, there was the counter argument. But what about the children? And, he tried to squeeze out of it. Oh, they had the opportunity to run. The children had the opportunity to run. Old people had the opportunity to run, apparently. All they had to do was leave. Although they had no legs. They couldn't walk, but they could have just left. But it's funny because it doesn't dawn on him that he was trying to give all these justifications when there's no point of giving the justification. If God says it's okay, then it's okay. So it's just being redundant. I mean, it's superfluous. There's no point in trying to justify it because God says so. If God says it's okay, then it's okay. So why is he trying to justify it? Right? It's, the kind of argument that is levied against moral relativists, why you don't really believe it, right? You don't really act like it. But you could levy the same argument against objectivists who believe in objective morality, where you don't really act like it. You don't really love all people. You don't really care about all people. You probably just care about your family and your friends. So why are you pretending that there is some kind of overriding objective morality somewhere, even though you couldn't even grasp it? The people that you care about, you only care about because you probably like them or you have some connection to them, right? You don't really feel this intertwining love, right? Maybe those people feel it who drop LSD or something, but you know, even that doesn't go beyond just an experience, and it's a fleeting experience, right? So what I'm trying to say is that there are limits to reason, right? Even if you have an objective morality, an objective, God who commands you to act a certain way, what does it matter in subjective hands? If it's subjectivized by people and relativized by society, then who cares if it's objective? You know, there's a certain limit to reason, right? There are these people who think that we can have objective knowledge, right? Because we have language, and language is biologically installed, and so we have, with this language, we have an objective access to the world, which is just such a stupid argument, right? Because just you could say that I also have the ability to take a shit, but you wouldn't say I take an objective shit. And so everything is always relativized to the society in which you live. So I think that people like Foucault or Nietzsche, people who are called relativists or pragmatists or whatever, of course those are slightly different things, but I think they're fundamentally right. I think everything is relativized and everything is subjectified. And so, even if there's an objective God, first of all, so what? I mean, what if God makes a world and you just disagree with it? Right? The same way that if you live in a society and you don't like the society, you disagree with it, they're gonna throw you in jail, right? If you act on your disagreement. But do they have any justification for it other than we said so? No, I don't think so. It doesn't matter what code they shove in your face. And I think you could just push that up to the idea of an objective morality or a God morality. That even if God says so, even if objective morality says so, you could just disagree with it. I mean, the only thing that happens is you just disagree with it. And then the only thing they can say, okay, we're going to burn you in hell. We're going to punish you. You're wrong. But there's still no fundamental justification for why it matters that I'm wrong. What the fuck does it matter if I'm wrong? And if the only tool you have against me is torture, then you're kind of just admitting defeat. That you're just shoving a rambunctious kid into the corner. Make them kneel on corn or something. I mean, it's just so stupid, right? So I guess just what I'm trying to say is that people will tell you the right things and wrong things and true things and false things. And maybe you could reach some kind of relative agreement. This is more likely to be true than that in some kind of sense. But, I think we should recognize that there's a limit to knowledge, that there's a limit to wisdom. And it's this limit that people are just not fucking willing to take up, right? They will never leave you alone. They always tell you what is right and what is wrong, what to do and what not to do. And based on shaky premises. Like this idea that we have built a nice, comfortable society and that's supposed to be a good thing. Even though we all know what the problems are. I don't need to repeat them now. But one thing I haven't said before, I said it now, is again, this, is it really a good thing that we've been made comfortable? Would you really not rather have lived a life where you had lots of meaning in your life and then Every day you woke up, you did a bunch of physical activities. It was hard, but it was fun, rewarding, and then you just died in some heroic battle. I'd take it if I could choose. Of course, I wouldn't do it now, but that's not fair because I've already been consigned to this fate. So that wouldn't be fair to say. Why don't you just do this or do that? It's not fair to say to a person who's already been molded in a certain way, And so, yeah, it's just, I mean, just think about those racists, white supremacists who are like, oh, but Western civilization has built everything, right? We're so much more superior to those people who live in mud huts, right? I'm like, why? Because we have technology, because we have couches and fast delivery, fast food, fast delivery. I had this quip that fast food, fast delivery, and I don't remember, but everything is fast, and that's supposed to be a good thing, Do you see have you ever questioned this fundamental assumption that all these advancements are good things? I mean, you wouldn't even need such a thing as gay rights if civilization hadn't risen to the point where they cared about these things. Do you think some tribe somewhere gives a shit if you're gay? They probably couldn't give a shit. It was only because of Christian ethics, as far as I know. Or it was mostly Christian ethics which brought in, at least in the West, this kind of idea of homophobia, right? And I'm sure you could find tribes where there's perfect gender equality. It takes a civilization to ruin equality. It takes something called an economy to ruin equality. Where you don't just wake up, you do your little things. No, you have to go to work, and that means you have to be unequal, right? There cannot be equality or anywhere near equality, either of opportunity or outcome. But you can't even have equality of opportunity, because we're born into a complex society in which everybody is a lot different, right? If we had to be born into a tribe, almost everybody would essentially be the same. There really would basically be no such thing as inequality, except maybe some kind of, I'm taller than you, I'm a little bit stronger, but it probably wouldn't matter much. Yeah, they wouldn't make you homeless, if you were not up to snuff. But here we do make people homeless. We let them live in shacks. We don't take care of them. And that takes a civilization. A tribe would never do that. Maybe some of them would, I don't, but the point is that in general, people used to live in more harmony, in more equality, acceptance. There was no homophobia because there just wasn't the concept. And they probably did fuck each other anyway, right? The men probably did fuck each other anyway. But it wasn't the problem. They couldn't even conceptualize what the problem was, right? So those of you who are anthropologists maybe could enlighten me about this stuff, because I'm just more or less inducing it, but I suspect I'm correct. The point is that it takes a civilization to ruin shit. The bigger the civilization, the more ruin you get, right? Because you get a bunch of complexity that you can't fix. You get problems that spiral out of control that you can't fix, like the nuclear age, online scammers, crooked politicians who develop and capitalists who develop the sly, complex system of stealing your money, right? Where they don't have to bother paying taxes, they just steal all your taxes, right? And then when they need money, they have something called taxes. which they don't have to pay or barely. Those are your taxes, and they take those taxes, they turn it into money, which is another bullshit. Money doesn't exist. It's just money is just debt. And there's an argument that money is debt, but I think money is debt on a fundamental level. That money is just a debt that you have to pay for the crime of having been born into society. I mean, just think about it. When you're born, they artificially deprive you of goods and services that you need or want, and they will take care of you for a while maybe, but then it's time that you start paying back your debt, right? They deprive you of those goods. You no longer have access to them. You have to earn it, right? So you're basically paying back your debt, the debt that you accrued because you were born into society. They're punishing you for the crime of somebody else, somebody who forced you into life that you didn't want, didn't need. And then if you don't want to do it, then you're a lazy piece of shit, go to hell, right? The whole thing is a lie. The whole thing is built on a bunch of rapes, in some sense. Some, if you don't want to use that word, coercion, blackmailing. I didn't consent to being, but I didn't want to be here. But now you're here, and now you're gonna study, and now you're gonna work, or else you're a lazy piece of shit. You're a fucking cunt. We're gonna hang you. We're gonna kill you. We're gonna imprison you. We're gonna force you to be homeless. When people criticize you, they only criticize you from this local point. They never they can only criticize you for something that is already contingent on society. So their criticisms are always blind. They're always, why didn't you do your job? Well, I didn't need this job. I didn't want this job. I was forced into this job, and now you're yelling at me and screaming at me that I have to do it, on pain of suffering and death. That's what we have to understand. Society is a fundamentally cruel structure, in my opinion. The bigger it is, the more complex it is, the more sophisticated and developed it is, the more cruel it gets, right? People develop all kinds of Jesus, scared the shit out of me. My headphone just died. My headphone just died. Anyway, the point is that they develop these sly tools to imprison you, right? And they develop concepts like good, bad, tall, short, and then eventually white, black, gay, straight, trans, not trans, worthwhile, not worthwhile, smart, stupid. And you can see how quickly it degenerates into hate, derision, on completely arbitrary grounds. All of it is arbitrary, right? They just made all of that shit up. A criminal is just somebody who disagrees with society. And those who are not criminals get to live another day because all their days are mediocre. Civilization is equal to mediocrity. And it's that mediocrity they want to push you into. They want to impose stoicism on you, utilitarianism on you. They want to impose the scientific mindset on you, the economical mindset on you, right? And you will worship, you will be religious in society. You will have to find something to worship. Otherwise, you'll just get really depressed. Because everything is really depressing. So of course you're going to end up worshipping, But you don't see, if you're a normal person, that you're just worshipping a bunch of bullshit. And that's what people like me want to get away from. I have seen through the lies, and I don't want to do it anymore. And these are lies that I've suspected ever since I was a kid. But it took me a while to find the right words to conceptualize them, right? But knowledge is power, and once you gain the knowledge of your own exploitation, you can, to a degree, rise above it. You can't rise above it completely, but to a degree you can. You can stop feeling so guilty, you can stop feeling the weight on your shoulders so much. But anyway, and ever since I was a kid, I could tell it was all bullshit, you know. I need to go to school. And I thought, well, why? You know, and when they punished you, you thought you had wronged the world. You thought you had done something fundamentally wrong, and you feared. But it was just an exploitation of your little mind. You didn't know that it didn't matter. Right? It's ridiculous. You actually felt like you had done something horrifically wrong because you didn't behave in class. Whereas in reality, you didn't do anything wrong at all. They just made that shit up. You know? And I thought, you know, what's the point of working? I mean, if you're just working, aren't you just making somebody else rich? And even this idea of calling somebody else boss. I need to call somebody else my boss. I need to humiliate myself and subjugate myself to some other asshole because he happens to be richer than me and have more power than me because of contingencies. You know, he was at the right place at the right time. He has a higher IQ. He's more dominant, you know. So therefore I need to follow the rules, or else I'm a useless piece of shit. Frankly, I should be a useless piece of shit. Because there's no point of contributing to society. The more you contribute, the worse it's probably gonna get. Because everybody who contributes to society keeps turning the wheel. The wheel that keeps all the other fuckers at bay. So when you choose to turn society's wheels, you're also participating in the exploitation of your fellow men and women. You're not just exploiting yourself, you're exploiting all the rest. But oh, I have to do it because if I don't, then I won't have money, and I won't have this, and I won't have that, and I have to take care of my family. I have to take care, you know. Of course, but that's part of the ploy. I'm not faulting you. I'm just saying it's all part of the ploy, and we should be allowed to say it. I'm so tired of the self-censorship that you're not allowed to say it. Why, you know, you're really not. You'll feel guilty just thinking about it. You'll feel mad. And of course, people won't take kindly to it if you say it to their face. But I think we live in an age of sincerity, I think, to an extent, where people get to be more honest than ever before. They get to talk about what kind of porn they watch, and, you know. We should take that opportunity and speak our minds very honestly. We should go beyond PC culture, cancel culture, woke culture. That was not a step forward. That was a step backward, baby. Major fucking step backward. It was just the idiotic idea that if we just pretend the problem away, it's gonna be okay, right? So if you speak to everyone in a very nice tone, if we, you know, and I'm not against it, but, you know, if you use the right words and, you know, then it's gonna be okay. And that was just another form of delusion. Another way to try and propitiate the troubled waters of our lives. It made us feel better to say all the right words in the right orders. And that's why we did it. But I think it's time. It's been a couple of years. It's totally backfired, I think. Been a couple of years. It's time to shut that shit down. Time to shut that shit down. It's over. It has its day. It's done. It's another stupid mistake, a blunder. Tactical blunder, as they said of the Iraq War, I think, something like that. If it's a happy accident, okay, let's move on. Let's fucking move on. Let's return to George Carlin. Let's make a return to George Carlin. Let's make a return to honesty, right? We don't just want this kind of performative sincerity. We should also couple that with a good dose of honesty. If we want to not turn into absolute fucking retards, right? Stop being pussies. Just stop being fucking pussies. Just stop. Oh God, you can't say that. You can't say this. Oh, it's shut the fuck up. Grow some fucking balls. It's time. Don't you see we're not going anywhere on this path? Don't you see the boomers were right? They were right. We're fucked up. It's okay. Let's move on. We don't have to go back. We can move forward. And I call it back to the future. Back to the future. That that even though I began with Margaret Thatcher, right? That even though I agree with her that there is no society, there's only individuals, but she meant that in a kind of reactionary kind of way. That you should in a Jordan Petersonian kind of way. I said his name. I think I didn't want to say his name, but anyway. His why? Fuck him, But so what I want to do is I want to agree with her. I want to say, yes, you're alone. Society sucks. It's only you against the world. You're a wolf howling on the dark cliffside, of pine trees. Yes, you're alone. You're fucking alone. You might have your family members, your friends, but you're basically alone. Nobody really gives a shit. Especially if you're a man, then doubly so. Very unlikely that anybody gives a first fucking shit about you if you're a man. Because you don't have value. You're in a market. You don't have so much market value, to recognize that this is true, but to turn it upside down and say, okay, let's not use this to sell reactionary propaganda, to wash your balls and go to work, bitch, but to say, fuck you, I'm done with society, I'm not gonna play your stupid game, I'm going to break free, I'm going to be a Nietzschean, let's say, or whatever the metaphor you want to use, or the philosophy you want to use particularly. You're not gonna just approbate. You're not gonna approbate it, and you're not gonna use this. You're not gonna fall into the traps of stoicism and utilitarianism and religion and the scientific economic mindset of grind, bro, grind. Take a cold shower, bro. It's, don't you? These are all just ways of assimilating yourself to an order of things. The ideology wants you to do this. They want you to do this. And the other thing I wanted to mention is again returning to the first quote, one of the first from George Carlin. There is no solution. If you think there's a solution, you're part of the problem. The problem nowadays is almost the opposite. In that we don't even, because George Carlin said that at the height of what used to be called the end of history, end of the Cold War, everything's going to be okay, there's going to be liberalism everywhere, based on the idiotic, liberal, positivist, optimistic ideal that was completely delusional. He said that in 1996 when this was at its height. The Cold War had just ended. There was no 9/11, no financial blah blah. So he could only say that in that time and that place. Because at that time everybody was looking for solutions. Everybody's really bullish. Okay, now here's our opportunity. We can make a liberal utopia, everything's gonna be okay now. Today, George Carlin, almost 30 years later, George Carlin could not say that. George Carlin could not say convincingly that if you think there's a solution, you're part of the problem, because people are no longer looking for solutions in the first place. What they're looking for is heuristics, alternatives to the solutions. Have you noticed that? Instead of the real the legacy financial system, we're gonna move to crypto. Instead of the liberal order, we're gonna move back to reaction or leftist utopia. Instead of eating the normal diet, whatever that is, we're gonna move to keto or vegan. We're gonna have, instead of some realistic approach to technology, we're gonna bang the horn for the AI, utopia. And these are not solutions. These are just, these are just delusional alternatives to possible solutions, is what I'm trying to say. So that's the utopian, but they're not solutions in the sense that they're just completely fucking delusional, right? Perhaps I should rephrase that, because veganism, okay, I'm not against it, but most of these are just delusions. And the point I'm trying to make is that instead of trying to build some rational way forward that could possibly even remotely work, they try to run away into alternatives. It's what that, that's what I'm trying to say. We don't think, let's try to work together to build some kind of reflexive equilibrium or whatever. Everything is, we don't even think about realistic solutions. We just think about alternatives to solutions. That's what I'm trying to say. And in a way, I even like that, because I don't like half-assed solutions either. And solutions are always half-assed. But the problem is that the world doesn't work that way. This is going to cause destruction. And in a way I like that, in a way I don't, because I'm sorry for the people who are gonna have to suffer. But I'm just saying that the solution can only be compromise. That's the truth. That solutions cannot come in the form of going all the way. Solutions cannot be, let's live our lives fully, because if we do, we're gonna exhaust ourselves, right? So think about kamikaze in World War II. They flew their planes into enemy ships, and that worked, but they had to die for it. That's going all the way. That's what I like, but that's not a solution for the world. The word, because it's not a solution for the kamikaze, because the kamikaze dies, So you know what I'm trying to say? That if you want to live, you can't fly your fucking plane into the enemy ship. You have to shoot the fuckers. You have to, or you have to sue for peace, negotiation, call a truce. That would be the best. But people don't really want to do that anymore. They don't really care to do it anymore, because maybe they're just tired, they're depressed. They've compromised for too long and they're tired of it, right? So they're escaping into these alternatives. Here's the main road, the promised land of mediocrity, and they just don't want to do it anymore, And you have to, if you care about society, you have to ask yourself, are you gonna take the collective route, or are you just gonna go all the way and then not find the middle ground? That's what you have to ask yourself. And that's a very tough choice, because again, if you don't take the middle route, it's gonna explode. It's not gonna work. Just think about it. You can't have a bunch of kids. You can't have a bunch of people going this way, that way, this way, that way, because the structure is not gonna be able to. It's gonna lopside. It's gonna capsize. too much weight here, too much weight here. It's gonna list, you know, and then eventually there's gonna be too much weight here, and then it's gonna fall over, you know. They need to be in the middle. They need to compromise. They need to, you know, put appropriate amounts of weight for the vessel to not capsize. Okay, but they're probably not gonna do that. And for me, I have a hard time deciding if it's a good thing. Because on the one hand, I don't like society. But if society collapses, it's not gonna be fun. It's gonna be ugly. So if you ask me, you know, what should we do? I say, I don't know. My best idea is to get away from it all. Not be here, not be here, not be here, just get the fuck away. I have never been able to find another solution, right? Because I fear that I don't want to support the structure because I don't believe in it. I think it sucks. But I also don't want to cause catastrophe. So the only way that I've been able to move forward, unlike Aaron Yeager, the only way I've been able to move forward is to be a jester. Now, what is a jester? A jester is the person with the little hats that go clink clang. The jester is the one who badmouths the king, shits on the society around him, the kingdom, and he brings their attention to the problems of the world and how, and you know, just to invite us to think about it. Directs their attention. That's what I was looking for. You know, like this person with the little cone going, okay, you're going this way, you're going that way. He wants to direct their attention to himself. Not because he is necessarily an attention whore. He just wants to blow the horn. He just wants to say, look, you guys are idiots, you're crazy. So let me just make fun of you and laugh. And maybe we can laugh together. You know? And maybe some of you will join us. Some of you will also be jesters. You will not want to go here, here, here. You will just say, fuck it, let's move. You know? And that was the solution of George Carlin. So that's the Carlinian solution. He said, I have given up on society. I have given up on the human race. And as long as people are individuals, I can see the universe in their eyes. That's what he said. In case you think I'm crazy, smarter people have said this too. But as soon as they become groups, they groupify, even as small as a group of two, they start to have funny ideas and they start to wear funny hats, and you know, they make lists of people they don't like and they want to kill. And it always eventually goes wrong. Groups are always delusional. They become groups because they feared the people who are outside the groups, right? When you want to join a group because you feel lonely and you feel maybe perhaps scared. But then when you join the group, your fear only intensifies, because now you're dependent on the group. The more in you are with the group, the more dependent you grow on the group, and then you lose your individuality, and that's society basically. And nowadays we don't even have the society; we have little schisms, little sub-societies. And I wonder if we can't accomplish the Margaret Thatcherian ideal. You see, but it's Back to the Future. It's flipped on its head. It's Margaret Thatcher. It's through Margaret Thatcher to George Carlin. That's what I'm proposing. I wonder if we can't, the same way we have dissolved society into little groups, I wonder if we can go further and also dissolve the little groups and turn into individuals. I wonder if we can't eliminate the idea of society and become jesters. And once we have become jesters, there's not much else to do. Maybe once we have become jesters, we're just gonna have sex and die. There are some species to do that. Or maybe we're just gonna laugh at each other. I don't know. I wonder if we can do that. So that's what I meant when I opened with those quotes, which I hopefully did. I don't remember what I said, but that was the plan. This is what I meant. So I don't know, perhaps I should qualify some things. I know it was very rambly, but you have to understand, I almost do that on purpose. I want to be completely honest. So the only way I can be completely honest is if I just say whatever comes to my mind. Well, I try to be reasonable about it and think about it. Of course, I've thought about this stuff before. I don't literally just sit down and start talking, but I do want to make it authentic, and that's why I jump up and down, left and right. So I don't know. I feel like what I said was pretty. I hope nobody takes it the wrong way, what I said, But I don't want to make excuses for what I said, Perhaps I just qualified by saying I don't recommend anyone do anything. I don't make prescriptions for what you should do. No. I'm just saying that I think society is bullshit. I think civilization is bullshit. I think it sucks. And I'm neither the first nor the last to say that. And all I'm suggesting is maybe we should just give it up. Just make fun of it, poke fun of it, and give up. George Carlin again was talking about how, show me a guy who's laying on his couch all day jerking off or whatever, and I'll show you a guy who ain't causing any fucking trouble. Perhaps it's this that we should go towards. Perhaps we should try to save the world by first giving up on the idea. That's it.